The air in the gym smelled like sweat and leather, familiar, but never comfortable. The punching bags thudded in the background as Coach Mitchell's whistle cut through the noise. "All right, circle up," he barked. I dropped my jump rope and jogged over, trying not to show how eager I was. Today felt different. I'd been training for months, and I was ready to prove it. Mitchell's eyes scanned the group, stopping on me. His smirk was slow, deliberate. "Ava," he drew out my name like it was a joke. "This isn't the kind of sport for someone like you. Too weak, too fragile." The words landed like a punch to the gut. My jaw tightened. I swallowed the sting in my throat before it could show. "Excuse me." My voice came out sharper than I meant. Ryan Blake leaned against the ropes, grinning like he'd been waiting for this. "He's right. You're wasting your time, Carter." I stared at him, my fists curling without me realizing. "I've been here every day, same as you." "Yeah," he said, chuckling, "but showing up doesn't make you a fighter." Chloe Sanders stepped forward before I could speak. "She's stronger than half the guys in here, and you know it." Mitchell didn't even look at her. "Pairing you with someone smaller today, Ava, just to keep you safe." Safe. That word burned. I didn't want safe, I wanted respect. "Coach, I can handle." "No discussion," he cut in. "You're with Tyler." Tyler, the smallest kid in the gym, barely 15. He looked at me with nervous eyes, probably scared I'd break him in half. Ryan's laugh carried over the squeak of sneakers on the mat. "Don't hurt him, Ava. You might prove us all wrong." I stepped into the ring. Every muscle in my body wanted to unleash everything I'd trained for, to make Mitchell eat his words. But one wrong move, and I'd be the angry black girl who didn't know her place. We touched gloves. I worked my footwork, kept my jabs light, barely tapping him. Tyler swung once, missed, and I let him land a clean jab just to give him the round. Mitchell clapped his hands when the bell rang. "See, nice and easy. That's your speed." I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood as I climbed out of the ring. Ryan passed close enough for me to hear his whisper. "Told you, you don't belong here." I didn't look at him. I couldn't. If I did, I'd swing. Chloe caught up with me by the lockers. "Why didn't you go for it? You could have dropped him in 30 seconds. "Because that's exactly what they want, a reason to call me dangerous." She exhaled hard. "So what? You keep holding back forever." I sat on the bench, unlacing my gloves slowly. "No, just long enough to make them forget they ever said I was weak. Then I'll hit them with something they'll never forget." Chloe smiled faintly, but her eyes stayed sharp. "Then you'd better be ready, because they're not going to make it easy." I glanced back toward the ring, where Mitchell and Ryan were laughing at something I couldn't hear. My hands itched, my chest burned. They didn't know it yet, but every insult, every smirk, every too weak was fuel, and I was already on fire. The air in the locker room was thick with the smell of sweat and disinfectant. My gloves dangled at my side, but my hands were balled into fists for a different reason. "Do you even hear yourself when you talk to me?" I snapped, stepping closer to Coach Mitchell. My voice echoed off the tiled walls. "Or do you just enjoy cutting people down?" He didn't even look up from his clipboard. "It's not personal," he said, his tone flat, like he'd said this 100 times before. "It's reality. Some people aren't built for this." My chest tightened. I took a step forward, closing the space between us. "By some people, you mean me, a black woman. Just say it." Finally he looked at me. "Don't twist my words." "Your words don't need twisting," I shot back. "They come out poisoned enough." From across the room, Ryan, the team's golden boy, leaned back on a bench, smirking like he'd been waiting for this moment. "Don't play the race card, Ava," he said lazily. "You just can't handle the heat." I turned to him slowly, my glare sharp enough to cut glass. "You wouldn't last a week in my shoes." "Oh, please," Ryan scoffed. "The only thing holding you back is you. Always looking for an excuse." My jaw ached from how hard I was clinching it. "You think calling out racism is an excuse? Easy for you to say. You've never had to fight twice as hard just to get half the credit." Mitchell sighed, as if we were wasting his precious time. "Ava, if you spent half the energy you waste arguing on your footwork, maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation." That one hit deeper than I wanted to admit. My throat tightened, but I forced my voice to stay steady. "I'm here every day. I push until my body feels like it's going to break, and somehow it's never enough for you." He didn't answer. The silence felt heavier than his words. Then Chloe, the only one in this room who'd ever had my back, came up beside me. She slipped a hand on my arm, her voice low so only I could hear. "You're not going to win this in here," she whispered. "You're going to have to prove it, Ava. Not to them, but to yourself." I swallowed hard, my eyes still locked on Mitchell. His expression didn't change, still cold, still certain I wouldn't make it. "Fine," I said finally. "Stepping back, I'll prove it. And when I do, you won't be able to pretend you didn't see it." Ryan chuckled under his breath. "Can't wait." I didn't give him the satisfaction of looking back. I turned and walked out, my heart pounding so loud it drowned out the sound of the locker room door swinging shut behind me in the hallway. The fluorescent lights buzzed above me. I pressed my back to the wall, closing my eyes for just a second. Chloe's words looped in my head. "Not to them, but to yourself." I'd been fighting battles my whole life. On the streets where I grew up, in classrooms where teachers underestimated me before I'd even opened my mouth, and now here in a boxing gym where every punch I threw seemed to hit a wall of bias. But the thing about walls, they can be broken, and I was going to break this one so hard. They'd feel the shake in every corner of this building. Ryan's voice cut through the sound of skipping ropes and thudding bags like it was aimed straight at my spine. Ryan, bet you won't last 3 rounds in the qualifiers. I didn't even look at him at first. That's what he wanted, a reaction. But when I turned, his smirk was already there, smug and waiting. Me, watch me. He laughed under his breath, shaking his head like I'd just told a joke that didn't land. The guys around him grinned, a couple of them whispering to each other as their eyes flicked in my direction. Gym member number 1, $5 says she doesn't make it past tryouts. Gym member #2, please, she gasped out before the second round. Every word felt like a push against my chest, daring me to step back. Instead, I stepped forward straight to the heavy bag. I wrapped my hands tighter, feeling the leather bite against my skin. Let them talk. My fists landed in a steady rhythm, thud, thud, thud. Every strike an answer. They couldn't laugh. Off. Ryan wandered over, leaning on the bag like he owned it. Ryan, you're wasting your time. Ava, some people just aren't built for this. Me, you're right. His eyebrows shot up. Me, some people aren't. I'm not one of them. I pivoted, hitting the bag harder. He backed off with a smirk, but I could still hear his voice behind me, feeding the room's doubt like oxygen to a fire. By the time coach called for conditioning drills, my arms were already aching. We dropped into burpees, sprints, mountain climbers. No rest, no excuses. I heard Chloe's voice from across the room. Chloe, come on Ava, don't give him the satisfaction. Her tone was light, but I caught the edge underneath. She hated how they talked to me. My lungs burned, sweat blurred my vision, and still I kept going. Every rep was a defiance. Every breath said, I belong here. When we finally got a water break, I collapsed onto the bench. Chloe slid next to me, handing me her bottle. Chloe, they're just jealous. Me, no, they don't even think about me enough to be jealous. I stared at the floor, my chest still heaving. Me, every time they say I'm weak, it's like they're saying I don't belong anywhere, not just here, anywhere. Chloe didn't rush to fill the silence. She let it sit between us until I finally looked at her. Chloe, then make your name impossible to erase. Her voice was quiet but sharp enough to cut through the noise in my head. For a moment, the taunts in the background faded. I wasn't thinking about Ryan, or the bets, or even the qualifiers. I was thinking about a scoreboard with my name at the top where no one could pretend they didn't see it. When coach called us back, I stood up with my legs still shaking. Ryan was waiting near the ring, smirking again like nothing had changed, but something had. Not in him, in me. She'll drop out before the first round's over. The words weren't meant for me, but they sank straight into my bones. I stood just outside the gym office door, gloves hanging loose around my neck, and I could hear Coach Mitchell's voice, low but clear, speaking to some other guy I didn't recognize. Too much heart, not enough power, he added. I pressed my nails into my palms until it hurt when I stepped into the ring. Ryan was already there, taller, broader. That smug grin spread across his face like he'd already won, ready to quit before we even start. He said. I didn't answer. My throat felt tight, but not from fear, from holding back every insult I wanted to throw at him. The bell rang. He came at me fast, like he wanted to prove something in the first 10 seconds. His first jab grazed my cheek. I let it happen. I wanted to feel the sting. It reminded me why I was here. You're too slow, he arcade. My fist moved before I even thought about it. A sharp, controlled right hook that landed clean on his jaw. The shock in his eyes was instant. His smirk faltered. Lucky shot, he grunted. Want me to try again? I said, my voice steadier than I felt. He charged again. This time I slipped left, then brought an uppercut right under his chin. The sound of my glove connecting echoed in my ears, louder than the crowd outside the ring. From the corner I caught Mitchell watching. His arms were crossed, his expression unreadable, but I saw it, that tiny twitch in his jaw. He wasn't expecting me to last this long. Ryan swung wide. I ducked, countered with 2 quick jabs to his ribs. He stumbled back. I could hear his breathing heavier now, less confident. You're not as soft as you look, he muttered, quotes. Funny, you're not as strong as you sound, I shot back. The bell rang again. I was still standing, chest heaving but not gasping. My gloves felt heavier, but my mind was sharper than when we started. Ryan pulled out his mouthguard and smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes this time. This isn't over. I stepped past him without answering, brushing my shoulder against his on the way. Mitchell turned away as I climbed out of the ring, pretending to focus on his clipboard. No good job, no acknowledgement, but I didn't need it in my chest. I replayed that first punch over and over. The shock in Ryan's face, the silence after the bell, the weight of proving even a fraction of them wrong for the first time since I walked into this gym. I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't here just to survive the first round. I was here to finish all of them. Mitchell caught me before I could leave the gym. His shadow stretched across the doorway like he owned it. Mitchell, you're strong, Ava, but don't let it get to your head. A woman's place. I didn't even let him finish. My gloves were still on, my knuckles sore, but my voice came out sharper than any punch. Me. Say it, a black woman's place. Right. His jaw tightened. That tiny smirk, the one that told me he thought he was being clever, made my skin crawl. Mitchell, you said it, not me. I stepped forward so close I could smell the mint on his breath. Me. Yeah, but you meant it. Don't think I don't hear it in every little thing you say. Ryan's voice cut through before Mitchell could answer. He was leaning against the wall, watching like this was free entertainment. Ryan, she's getting cocky. Someone needs to humble her. Mitchell chuckled under his breath. My stomach twisted. I wanted to say more, to scream at both of them, but I could feel the stares from across the gym, people pretending to work the heavy bags but listening to every word. Me. You think you're gonna be the one to do it? Ryan wouldn't take much. That stung more than I wanted to admit. My fists curled tighter inside my gloves. If I stayed one more second, I'd do something that would get me kicked out. I brushed past them without looking back. The cold air outside hit me harder than any punch I'd taken. By the time I got home, my hands wouldn't stop shaking, and it wasn't from the workout. I sat on my bed, still in my gym clothes, staring at the floor like it might give me the answers. It wasn't just about boxing anymore. It was about being told in 100 different ways that I didn't belong, that no matter how hard I worked, there'd always be someone ready to put me back in my place. By the time Chloe knocked on my door, my eyes were already burning. Chloe, you didn't answer my texts. What happened? I tried to keep my voice steady. Me. Mitchell cornered me after practice, said I shouldn't let it get to my head, then stopped himself like I wouldn't know where he was going with it. She leaned on my dresser, arms crossed. Chloe and me, and Ryan was there. Said I'm getting cocky, said I need to be humbled. Chloe's expression didn't change, but her jaw tightened. Chloe, you know what that is. Me. Yeah, I know exactly what it is. Silence sat between us for a moment, heavy and loud. Me. It's not just about boxing anymore. It's about being told I'll never be enough. Not because of how I fight, but because of who I am. I hadn't planned to say it out loud, but the words spilled anyway, shaking with the weight of every time I'd been told I was too loud, too much, too aggressive. Chloe walked over and sat beside me. Chloe, then you make them choke on those words. I let out a bitter laugh. Me. Easier said than done. Chloe, no, you've been doing it your whole life. This is just a bigger stage. Her voice was steady, but her hand squeezed my shoulder. It wasn't pity, it was fire. Chloe, you don't just win. Ava, you make it so they can't look at you without remembering the day you proved them wrong. I looked at her and, for the first time that night, I believed it. The next morning, my muscles ached, but I was back in the gym before sunrise. The bag swung with every hit, my breath sharp, my arms screaming. I wasn't training for a match anymore. I was training for every word they'd ever thrown at me, and I wasn't going to let a single one land again. The bell rang and the roar of the crowd hit me like a second opponent. My gloves felt heavier than they should, my breath already short. Sweat blurred my vision, but I kept my eyes locked on him. From the corner, Mitchell's voice cut through the noise. Mitchell, keep your left guard up. You're letting him inside. For once I didn't argue, I just nodded. My jaw clenched. Ryan, she's fine. Let her work. I blocked the next jab. My knuckles tingled from the force, but I stayed planted. The sound of the crowd faded into a low hum. All I could hear was my breath, my heartbeat, his shoes squeaking on the canvas. Mitchell, don't wait for him to come to you. Take it to him. He'd never given me credit before, but now, his tone was sharper, almost invested. I stepped in. 1, 2, jab, cross. His head snapped back, but he didn't fall. He grinned like he thought I was spent. My arms burned, but I pushed again. Opponent, that all you got? I ignored him. My silence was the answer. The bell for the final round clanged. My legs felt like concrete, but I pushed forward. Mitchell, now don't think. Go. I lunged, weaving under his hook. My fist shot up in a tight uppercut. I felt it connect. Solid. Final. His body crumpled before I even realized what I'd done. The crowd exploded. I stood frozen, chest heaving, staring at him on the canvas. The announcer's voice boomed. Announcer, ladies and gentlemen, we have a new state record for fastest knockout of our kata. For a heartbeat I thought I'd imagined it. Then I heard Chloe scream from the stands. Chloe, yes, Ava, that's my girl. Ryan jumped, up on the apron, eyes wide, mouth open. Ryan, did you, Ava? You just broke the me. I know. My voice was shaking. Not from exhaustion, but from something deeper, a kind of release I'd been chasing for years. Mitchell didn't move. His eyes locked on me, the corner of his mouth twitching like he wanted to say something but couldn't. Me, still think I'm too weak. He didn't answer, and that was answer enough. The judges raised my hand. My lungs were still burning, but the air tasted different now, lighter. I'd been fighting for more than a win. I'd been fighting to prove I belonged here. The cheers rolled over me, but I didn't let them drown me. I looked right at Mitchell. As they announced my name again, his face was unreadable, but I saw it, the flicker in his eyes. Respect. I climbed out of the ring, my legs trembling. Chloe crashed into me, arms tight around my shoulders. Chloe, you just made history. Ava, do you get that? Me, yeah, I whispered, though part of me still didn't. Ryan grinned, shaking his head like he'd just watched the impossible. Ryan, guess the record books needed a rewrite. Behind them, Mitchell finally spoke, his voice low enough for only me to hear. Mitchell, that was something no, Mitchell, that was everything. The lights were still blinding, but the noise was louder, reporters spilling into the ring, voices overlapping like a swarm. My chest was still heaving from the last punch, the sweat stinging my eyes. A microphone almost hit my chin. Reporter 1, Ava, what do you have to say to those who doubted you? I didn't answer right away. My gaze cut through the crowd and locked on Mitchell. He was standing just outside the ropes, arms folded, that same condescending smirk, the one I'd been training to erase. Me. They said I was too weak. I tilted my chin, holding his stare. Me, turns out I was just too strong for their expectations. The words hit harder than any punch I'd thrown tonight. Mitchell's smirk twitched, not gone, but cracked. Reporter 2, Mitchell, any comment? He stepped back, jaw tight, refusing the mic. Coward. Ryan climbed into the ring, clapping too hard, like the sound could erase years of doubt. Ryan, hey champ, that was me, don't. I brushed past him, not slowing down. I wasn't going to let his sudden enthusiasm feel like support. He hadn't been in my corner when it mattered. The flashbulbs were dizzying. My body still hummed with adrenaline, but my thoughts were razor sharp. Chloe's voice sliced through the chaos. Chloe, that was poetic justice right there. I turned. She was grinning, but there was something else in her eyes. Relief, pride. Me. It wasn't about justice. Chloe, no. Me, it was about survival. Justice was just a side effect. I could feel Mitchell still watching me from the edge of the ring. I refused to give him another glance. Another reporter shoved forward. Reporter 3, Ava, what would you say to girls who've been told they're not strong enough? The question cut deep because I knew exactly what I wished someone had told me back then. Me. I'd tell them, stop trying to meet expectations that were never made for you. Break them, shatter them, make people uncomfortable with how strong you are. The crowd murmured. Cameras clicked faster. I wasn't performing now. I was telling my truth, raw and unfiltered. Reporter 4, do you think this changes how the boxing world sees you? I almost laughed at me. I don't care how they see me. I care how I see me. There was a pause, the kind of silence you only get when people realize you've said something they can't spin. Chloe stepped closer, lowering her voice. Chloe, you know you just rewrote your own story tonight, right? Me, no. Chloe, what do you mean no? Me, I didn't rewrite it. I just tore out the parts they wrote for me. I could see the PR manager waving from the tunnel, signaling me to wrap it up. My body wanted rest. My hands still ached from the fight, but my heart felt untouchable. Mitchell turned to leave, but I caught the faintest trace of him looking over his shoulder. For years, I had imagined this moment, imagined shouting at him, proving him wrong, making him admit it, but now, I didn't need his admission. His silence was enough. The gym smelled of sweat and chalk, but tonight it carried something else, a silence that wasn't empty. It was watching. I stepped through the door, my glove slung over my shoulder. Conversations dipped. A couple of new trainees paused mid-punch, their eyes following me like I'd just stepped out of some impossible story. Chloe leaned against the wall by the water cooler, grinning. Word travels fast. I raised an eyebrow. What are they saying? Chloe, that you're the girl who made Mitchell eat his own words. My lips twitched, but I didn't answer. Let them talk. Ryan was wrapping a trainee's hands, but he glanced up at me. We all saw it. You didn't just win a fight, Ava. You shifted the room. I took a slow breath. The shift wasn't just in them. It was in me. Mitchell emerged from his office. For once, he didn't bark orders. He walked toward me, stopping just close enough that I could see the faint hesitation in his stance. Mitchell, I was wrong about you. I let the silence stretch until it hurt. Then I met his eyes. You were wrong about more than just me. Something flickered in his expression, guilt maybe. But I didn't wait for him to find words. I turned to the nearest heavy bag and started hitting it, each punch cutting through the tension like a blade. My breath came hard and steady. Around me, the younger fighters edged closer, watching. Trainee, can you show me that left hook you used in the final round? I glanced at him, barely 17, eyes wide with something between awe and hope. Yeah, but it's not just about the hook. It's about knowing you can land it even when they tell you you're not strong enough. His shoulders straightened. I recognized that look. I'd worn it once. Chloe stepped forward, nodding to the others. Looks like you've got fans. Me, they don't need a fan. They need someone to remind them they're not the labels people stick on them. Ryan smirked. Sounds like you're talking from experience. I gave him a half smile. Maybe. The bag swung gently as I stopped hitting it. My gloves dangled from my fingers. I looked around the gym at the ropes, the bags, the sweat on the mats, and realized something. I'd walked in here months ago just wanting to fight. Now, I wanted to break something bigger than an opponent's guard. I slung the gloves over my shoulder. I'm heading out. Mitchell, you're coming back. I didn't turn around. If I do, It'll be on my terms. The door creaked behind me as I stepped into the cool night air. My reflection in the darkened window wasn't just a fighter anymore. I was someone who had taken every insult, every doubt, every whisper to weak, and turned it into something they couldn't ignore. I'd won more than a title tonight. I'd broken the chain that said I didn't belong.